What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Stay Strong City podcast. What's going on, Monica?
What up, what up, what up? So happy to be here today. So excited. One of the biggest topics we've talked about and a lot of people talk about. So I'm super excited to be here today. You want me to go ahead and drop it now?
Go for it.
All right. So today, one of the things that we want to talk about is dealing with toxic people and the things that we do to try to get them out of our lives and why it is for our own good to not necessarily there's people that we can't eliminate from our lives completely, but at least distance ourselves from them. And then of course we're going to go into why it is so important that we connect to people who are like-minded in the things that you're doing and where your dreams are and being able to see your vision. So I'm excited, super excited to talk about this. I think this is one of the biggest topics that we hear in personal development, because it does allow for people to start excelling and moving forward and letting go of some of their past.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited about it because, I guess I can kind of kick us off in a way of like, I've been in a domestic violent relationship and around those toxic people. And, one thing that I think I had to recognize was like, I was a part of it. Like I played a part. I allowed myself to be there. And it sucks to recognize that. Like to say that like I played a part of a negative situation. It's not easy or comfortable to say, yet it's the truth. And the other thing I think that's like incredibly hard to do is to step away. Like that right there is terrifying because it's almost the fear of the unknown. You're so used to this negative energy and being involved with this negative environment that you almost question like what is good. Like you kind of become fearful of like what's going to come, or allowing people to like help you and to start bettering your life. And I remember feeling like that. And like at times I remember like having mixed emotions because like I, outside of the trauma, I really did have a really great life. And when I got to the point where I was like, I have to choose my heart and I have to walk away, I remember being like, what is it like to not have this, big part of my life that's so toxic, and to start feeling that genuine happiness. Now, mind you, it took me a long time to recognize that happiness is an inside job and all of that. So like, I don't know, you kick us off with what you thought, but like, that's where my mind immediately went, was like the fear of the unknown of getting out of a toxic environment.
Right. So one of the very first things you mentioned was taking accountability. So you have to take accountability for your actions in every single relationship, friendship, any of those things that you come across. Because if there's any toxic behavior or traits that occur during that relationship, now I'm not saying 100% that you were at fault, but at some point you have to take responsibility for allowing it to go for as long as it did, for allowing it to continuously happen, and for not being the one to put your foot down early enough in that friendship or relationship to say, yo, bro, like, I'm not going to be treated this way. And the hardest part about doing that is for me, it goes back to really understanding yourself and your identity and what your true happiness is, to realize that it's okay to tell that to somebody. Because we're so afraid to tell someone that, hey, you're not adding any value into my life. You're causing more negativity into my life. You're causing my mind to turn in different directions and start overthinking things. And part of that is because we don't have the confidence to be able to just say, hey, enough is enough. And it's crazy because as you were talking, one of the biggest things that came to my mind was boundaries. And that's really when you start to eliminate those toxic people out of your life, is when you learn to set boundaries. This is where all of this personal development, all these different little things that we've talked about, we've shared about, they all start to come together. You set boundaries, you start to tell people the word no, like Becca's favorite saying, No is
Why am I blanking my no, it's
a
a complete
complete
sentence.
sentence.
I was like, no can be told in a lot of different ways.
But no is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain. You don't have to justify. You have to just be able to say no. Right. And so I think that for me is, like you said, one of the biggest things about being able to eliminate toxic people in your life is first taking accountability for your actions in the situation, and then setting boundaries, because that will actually get people to start backing off naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny when you said the word no, I immediately honestly went to like, no is a complete sentence is one of my favorite like reminders to myself. But I also think that like a way to say no is also providing silence. That is often an answer that like people aren't, you know, like silence is an answer. Like you're not giving back to the energy and you're not feeding into it. You're just walking away. And it's going to confuse the heck out of people and probably infuriate them. But you know what? Like, do what is best for your life. But the other thing that came up as you were talking about boundaries is something that I did. And, you know, so often people talk about the I am statements of like, tell yourself that you are incredible through I am statements. Well, one thing that helped me to really create boundaries and recognize that I'm no longer going to go back to these toxic environments or people is creating I am not statements. So what are you not going to go back to? I am no longer going back to toxic or, you know, environments that are going to tear me down. I'm no longer going to tolerate any hate or disrespect towards me. So think about the things that you don't want to go back to and create these statements and say these statements every day so that you can remind yourself of what you're not going to settle for, because we should never be settling for less. So that's something that's helped me is like, no, I am not going to allow anyone or anything to change who I am. And I am now no longer going to have anybody rob me of my peace or my energy. But those are just a few of mine.
Did
I
y'all
can go
notice his
on.
sass in that? I am not going to. But look, I'm going to tell you like this. What I am not going to do is I'm no longer going to internalize my feelings, which is one of my biggest I am not statements. Because when I internalize my feelings, I don't get to express how I'm feeling. I don't get to voice my opinion, or my thoughts. And so I'm no longer going to do those things. Like I'm no longer going to allow someone to control how I think or how I should think. And so, or how I should feel. Everyone has feelings, everyone has the right to their opinion, all those kind of things that we talk about. And the reality is that yes, we do. We don't have to agree with them. We don't have to understand them. And that's my biggest thing is I'm not telling you how I feel because I need you to understand me. I'm telling you how I feel because I'm not going to let my feelings attack me.
I love that. Yep. 100%. Like you have to be able to like give it a release in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
And also not allow yourself to be the bully, because I think that's often part of the game too is we bully ourselves. Like one of my things is like I'm no longer going to listen to the bullies because I'm a biggest bully. I tell myself all the time I can't do something, I won't do something, like, and that's doing me harm, that's doing my potential harm. And it's in those moments that you have to turn those I can't or I won't or whatever it may be into positive self-talk. And we've talked about this multiple times before. Like, I don't think we're going to ever stop talking about it because it's crucial and like somebody always needs to hear. But the way that you talk to yourself is critical. I mean, I would not sit here if I'm telling myself I am not a good friend, I am not funny, I am not all of these. I would not go to Monica and then tell her, Monica, you're not a good friend. You're not funny. Like I would not I would not go to Monica and say that, one, because it's not the truth. But two, like you don't like if you are somebody who goes and tells people the terrible things about them, like in my opinion, one of the worst type of people. However, like I also get there's frustrating moments, whatever. But what I'm trying to get at is you should be your best friend. And you want to tell yourself the same thing that you would tell your friend. So I would tell Monica, and I would tell myself, you are a good friend. You're freaking hilarious. And oftentimes people don't see that outside of the social media world. You have a little heart, and you're here for a purpose. You're making an impact, all of these different things. So think about how you talk about your friends and what you want to tell yourself as your friend.
Yeah. And it's crazy as you were saying those things. Because yes, I am super cool and I'm super funny. A lot of people do not get to see that side of me. Um, and you know, just like you and I were talking earlier, I'm very reserved. And so people who actually do get to come into my inner circle actually get to see that side of me. Don't get me wrong, I'm friendly and I love on everybody and all those kind of things, but I know when it's the appropriate time for me to be able to just tease or have fun and those kind of things. But um what it made me think of when you started talking about how I would not go to Monica and say, you know, you are not a good friend and those kind of things, it just made me think of the quote that hurt people hurt people. And that is the honest truth. Miserable people want to surround themselves around other miserable people. People who gossip want to be around other people who also like to gossip. And so what happens is this kind of leads to where we want to end this segment, about why you want to surround yourself around those people who are providing you positivity, who are inspiring you, who are energetic, who have the same energy that you have, that you're putting off, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're hanging around people who are miserable, who are negative, and you're trying to be a positive person. It's going to be very difficult for you to be able to move forward, because those people that are pulling that, sharing that negativity with you, it stays around you. All these famous little quotes that you hear, you are who your friends are. Watch who you surround yourself with. Those things, people are like, oh no, you know, that's not me. Like, I'm the best one of the group. Like, I don't do those things. No, you do. Even if you don't realize it, you do those things. And that's the thing that people fail to understand. Goes back to the accountability. Take responsibility that, yes, these are the kind of friends I hang around with, and I don't want to be that person, you know? And if you choose not to be that person, only you get to take the action to not be that person, you know? So, where I want to go next is, we've talked about some of the things that we can do about, you know, working on ourselves to get rid of the toxic, you know, people in our lives. But not only is it about setting boundaries, but actually being able to move forward without these people. Right? Because it's not just eliminating them, like getting them out of your life or giving them the distance and those kind of things. The reason that you've decided to keep them out of your life is because they've caused some sort of toxic behavior in your life and made you think that this person is no longer good in your life, right? So when that happens, you still harbor this hatred, these feelings, these anger, all of these kind of things. And so moving forward requires you to forgive. Moving forward requires you to let go. You know, and it's funny because I posted about this on my IG story, that forgiveness isn't about letting them get away with what they did, right? Forgiveness is about making yourself free, letting yourself move forward. The forgiveness is not for them, the forgiveness is for you. So I think, you know, that's just one point that's really important in being able to move forward from that toxic, you know, relationship or friendship that you were in, and being able to just progress in your life.
Absolutely. And to go back to the hurt people real quick, you know, I, it's something that, you know, I recognized throughout my journey of like, wow, bullies are often bullying because there's deeper pain happening behind the scenes or within their own minds. And that's why they're lashing out, because they don't know how to handle their hurt. so their intent is to hurt other people because they're hurt. And it's so sad to watch. And, it's at moments just, for me, just really challenging, but I understand. And one thing I've also had to I've kind of recognized throughout my journey is, I've also been that hurt person that has hurt other people. And, I accept responsibility for that. And like, maybe there's somebody out there who's saying like, I am that hurt person, or maybe you don't say it out loud, but you're thinking it in your mind. You're tearing somebody up in your mind. Like, I hate that person because they're shining so bright, or like whatever it may be. Like, you have to recognize that part of that is jealousy, I think, at times, or comparison. And that's why comparison kills, because it puts you in a place where you feel hurt. It puts you in a place where you don't see your greatness and you're dulling your own shine. You have the same shine as anybody that you are comparing your life to. You just have to be able to see it. And you also have to be able to put the work into yourself, because I guarantee that there's just a difference of a routine or a ritual or whatever it may be. And you can create that same greatness. And so often when we talk about the ingredients within your recipe, you may be able to take somebody else's recipe and create your own greatness, yet I can guarantee they're going to be two completely different sauces.
Hey, give me the sauce.
Because typically people can't make the exact same sauce because we're two individuals and we're putting in different recipes. I might put a little bit more salt. You might put a little bit more pepper, whatever it may be. And they're going to be two completely different things, but that's what's needed. That is what is needed, because we all have our own differences. We all have our own taste buds, and we all have our own different, just differences, point blank period. But, going back to like the starting to create a positive environment, you also have to think about your soil. You have to think about where you want to plant your seed and where you want to grow. And before, like, I'm just going to say for the rest of the world, like, I am not a gardener. So like, but this is so often referred in this way. And I think it's a beautiful thing, is that, gardeners take time to recognize where they should plant the seed. They look at the soil. They want to know, is it going to be a healthy place for this plant or for this tree to grow? And that's what you have to do as well. You have to think about the soil. Where do you want to be nurtured? And who is going to help you grow your seed of greatness? Because it's there. You just have to get rooted into the soil. And if you really think about it, putting a seed into soil is dark and probably scary. I'm not a seed, so I don't know. But what I do know is that starting to plant myself in an environment of growth was also dark and scary in a way, because I was facing my own demons of new change. But as I became more rooted and surrounding myself around other individuals, I slowly started to pop up and start growing within my environment. So plant your seed in an environment of growth.
Becca, that was freaking incredible. Oh my God, so many things were going through my head as you were saying those things. Okay, so let's talk about when you talked about this seed in the darkness, right? So we have a hard time getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, and so what happens is we don't want to get out of our comfort zone. But just like the seed, it knows that it needs to get out of that comfort zone. And in order for it to grow, you've got to feed it. You've got to feed it.
That part.
And there's just so many things that you can do to feed it. Yes, naturally, we'll give it water. But will water give it all of its nutrients? No. So what happens is that when we think that just water alone is going to benefit us and those kind of things, it's not. It requires so much more work. Becca refers to that self-worth work. many a times in all of our podcasts. And I love how she says that, because you actually have to put in the work into yourself to be able to progress. And when we talk about feeding, you feed yourself by being surrounded by people who inspire you, who are wiser than you, who have already gone through this process, who are able to provide you feedback and all of the things that they have figured out on their own. And then, of course, you have to feed yourself with reading literature, with reading books, with self-development, with learning new mental cues, with learning new strategies, learning new tips. All of those things will feed you and feed this seed into growing into a better person, right? Because a lot of times, even though we know the difference between right and wrong, we still make bad decisions. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. It's what we use that mistake, how we use it to move forward. Are you going to just tuck it away and say, oh, I made a mistake? Then you're going to be stagnant. But oops, I made a mistake, using that data as feedback and moving forward, and how I can change that and not make the same mistake again, is how I'm going to grow. So let us not forget that we got to feed ourselves. And a lot of that is you feeding yourself, looking for the food. Because we're not going to starve around here.
Whoo, I know that right.
I'm not
always
starving.
Hungry. And I ain't talking about just food. I'm talking about I'm hungry for my personal development and for my personal growth.
Right. And, we've surrounded ourselves around some really good people. You and I, Becca, met through a personal development program, right? And so we were coached by some really incredible coaches. And what it did is it opened the door to so many other opportunities of people who have the same mindset, who are doing the same things, who are growing, who have bigger visions than we ever thought we had, and we started learning. And then, of course, you and I jumped into this whole faith journey, right? And then we got connected with Christian personal development. It's just impacted our lives in a completely different level. And, wow, you guys have grown so much, and we have, but we never forget where we started. We stay humble with the fact that I went through the same things that you're going through. And the reason I do what I do is not just for me. It's because I don't want to see you go through the same things I went through. I didn't just teach that to my daughter. I didn't just teach that to my son. No, I want people to understand that I've been through my own forms of adversity, and I don't want to see you go through the same things I went through. Let me help you get through what you're feeling or the decisions you're about to make. And it's hard. It's hard. It's not easy. But if there's somebody keeping you from your own growth, you have to reevaluate that relationship.
Ooh, you brought the fire, homie. And I couldn't agree more. Like, point blank, period. Like, for me, it goes back to that moment that I wanted to throw the towel into my life multiple times throughout my journey. There's moments I wanted to quit. There's moments, I didn't think I could keep going, or wondered why I was just kind of living, this average life. And I've recognized throughout my journey that every time I wanted to throw in the towel, God threw it back and said, your story isn't over. And you have something powerful that you are going to do, and you are going to help serve other people. And that is truly what I believe that I am being called to do, is to help individuals recognize that you may be at your rock bottom. You may want to be throwing in your towel to your life. Yet, just like somebody did for me, I'm going to hand you the towel right back and say, your life isn't over. Put a semicolon where you're trying to put a period and continue living your life. And I know it sounds easier then it is. Yet, as long as you continue to color, life will get better. And you have to be willing to put the work into your life. The other thing that I thought of as you were talking about, you know, Rare Breed Academy and all of that is the quote that we were just told on Sunday. And that it's from our coach, Jay Pruna. And he says, you can't lead others unless you lead your life.
That part.
We are leading because we're also leading our life. We're putting in the work. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, actually, I'm going to go say 10 out of 10. There is so much work that you do not even see happening behind the scenes. We all post our highlight reels.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we want to try to be real and raw and honest here and tell you some of the work that we're doing behind the scenes or what we've done behind the scenes. I mean, there's moments also too, I want to hit on this, that you're going to feel alone. Yet I had, somebody tell me and pray for me that sometimes it's being completely alone in which you need to feel God's presence, comfort, and love to propel you forward. And that right there really helped me recognize, like, I need to do this alone at times so I can process things and I can, propel myself to the next level that I feel like God is calling me to do. Because was there a time in the beginning where, I wanted to do this, like I thought it was cool. I wanted to go down this entrepreneurship. Yeah, but let me be real, raw, and honest of my confidence got in my way and I wasn't leading into the Godfidence that he was providing me to do. And I had to recognize that and take accountability and be like, okay, I'm rushing this process and thinking I got it all down and I'm a know-it-all. And I had to put that to the side and say, I don't know what I'm doing. Let me get into this program where Monica and I met and see what I can learn. And thank God I freaking did, because I found my other sunshine and now we are shining bright like the sun.
Oh man, you dropped some really good stuff, Becca. Really good stuff. The point I want to hit on is that alone part you talked about. So many times people focus on the alone part, that they don't realize why it's so important to be alone. And you mentioned a really big part about it. So when you got that prayer from your friend, and it got you to understand God doesn't always want you in isolation, right? There's times where God will put you in isolation so that you can actually see what it is that you need to see for yourself, right? And then there's times where we put ourselves in isolation, right? Because I had to, in my transformation, I chose to put myself into isolation. And literally, you guys, I went to work and I came home. If it didn't have to do with my son and baseball, I was at home. And Becca knows this, and a lot of people who are close to me who saw my growth in 2021 was because during that isolation, I focused on me. What can I do to be better? How do I get to be that better version of myself? And so when I put myself in that isolation, I understood the assignment and I went 100% full into my personal development, right? But as you start to grow and you get to points like Becca talked about, where you feel like your confidence is way above where it really is, God will pull you right back and put you in his form of isolation to make you realize that, you don't got this. You don't. And it's time for you to readjust, figure out where you are, ask for help, and get into that isolation. And a lot of times what happens is that so many people get caught up thinking, oh, well, I'm all alone and I'm lonely and I don't have any friends and I don't have, a social life and I don't have, use that to your advantage. What can I do to make myself better? What can I do to attract the kind of people that I want to be like. And I think that's the toughest part, is that we don't take advantage of the isolation opportunities that God gives us. But it is very important that you do, and not think about being lonely or being alone or those kind of things. Like, yes, it sucks. It sucks because sometimes you feel like you're all by yourself and you have no idea what you're doing. Take it to God.
Exactly. I mean, and there's still moments today where you and I still feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing this together. And I don't think any successful person has ever done it completely alone. There's always been a partner. There's always been somebody helping them or guiding them, and getting a coach or whatever it may be. And, that's something I wanted to kind of go back and hit on, was how we invested into ourselves. And we made that decision because we knew that we didn't want to waste our life. We knew that we wanted to propel forward, and we knew that we needed to make these changes because we hit that rock bottom, right? And now I'm seeing so many people, and I may be calling some people out. I'm glad. You probably need the change. Some of you are going to places and you are wasting money on things that are not propelling your life forward. You're spending things on like toys or whatever it may be. And I'm not saying don't invest in your self-care, things that are going to keep you safe. I have that too. I do that as well. Yet you pay attention to what you pay for, because it is an accountability and you do not want to waste your money. Don't waste your life, because your time here on earth is a currency. So freaking invest into yourself.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
I mean, go for it.
Yeah, and it was those very words that made me realize it was time for me to invest in myself.
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest worries for everybody is finances. If you're not having any financial issues, then God bless you. I'm so happy for you. But those of you who are, the very first thing you make sure, the very first thing that we make sure is that, all of our bills are paid, that all of our utilities are paid, that I got a place to live, that I got a car to drive, and all those kind of things, right? And so when we focus on those things and make sure we got food on the table, like, we won't spend the money to invest in ourselves for our growth, like you were talking, just being able to propel us forward. And so you and I made the decision. We invested in ourselves. We joined a program. We got these amazing coaches, right? And we started to grow. And we grew and we grew and we grew, and we're still growing. But what we realized, and we realized this together because we met up with one of our coaches, and what he said to us was, you guys already have the sauce. You guys already have the sauce. Now you got to start focusing on what other parts of your life need the coaching, need the mentorship. Where do you need to grow to continue to propel your life? So now that you've surpassed this whole personal development part, and you've gotten your mind right, and you've gotten your spirit right, like, what's next? What's going to propel you forward? Now you need a coach to help you do that. And he wasn't saying that in saying that we didn't need him anymore, although he was. He was saying that, hey, like, I've helped you get to where you are. I helped you because a lot of it was your own work. But now that you've got that, like, you need to go find somebody who's going to help you propel into the areas that you're now focused on. Me and Becca are now focused on business. And so that's where we're headed. We're headed into mentorship for that. And that's where we're going to start investing our money in. We're going to start investing our money into getting around the coaches that are going to propel us business-wise and move us forward. This is a pendulum, you guys. And it's not about staying where we are because we're comfortable. Yes. Right? But I want bigger and better. And I know Becca does too. And I know you do too. I know you do too. And that's the part. The hardest part is me and Becca can get on here and we can tell you all of the things that you can do to help you excel and prepare your life forward. But ultimately, it comes down to you taking action and doing the work yourself.
100%. And, you know, it brought me back to, you know, how when you start putting yourself first and you start investing and you start not only, you know, seeing the change within yourself, you know, you get opportunities that you never freaking imagined. Like us meeting up with our coaches. And I'm just gonna say it, it's Jay Pruna and Trent Shelton. Like they are phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal coaches. And, you know, I think we stood out because we also put the work in. They saw that we were putting the work in. We were wanting to genuinely help other people and be a part of this community. And through that, we got the opportunity to meet with them. Have we not put the work in? I think there still would have been a chance that we could have connected with them because of the heart and character that these men have. Yet it was so much more rewarding for myself to say, I did the work. I got myself here. So I deserve this opportunity. I deserve to go on a hike with Trent Shelton and have dinner with him and, you know, have my best friend to be there alongside of me. Like, I deserve this. And what's crazy is for so long, I would battle in my head. I don't deserve that. I don't deserve that. Like, and there's so many different challenges like that. And it's adjusting to like learn to accept these opportunities and learn to receive. And it brought me back to a quote the other day of like, we definitely are in this point where we are pouring from our overflow and saving our cup of the reserve for when we need it. Because you and I are surrounded by so many incredible individuals that like when we do stuff like this, it's coming from our heart. And I also want to hit on this. We're doing it all for free right now. And I don't think people freaking recognize that. We're doing a podcast, a YouTube channel, our TikToks. We are doing so much content for free so that when we start charging, we can say we've done it. And not only that, that we are worth it.
That part.
We are worth it.
That part.
And I know that's something that I have struggled for a long time with, of like putting a price on certain things, because one, like, I don't want to downsize the work that I am putting in, yet I also understand and have seen, like, I don't want people to necessarily fully go broke. Like, I don't want to overcharge people because I'm not like a top of the line person, you know, but like, I am valuable. My time is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get a good solid price. But it goes back to that you pay attention to what you pay for. And if you know, put a good investment down, you're going to most likely put in the work. Like our course was reasonably priced, and it always, not, I wasn't doing it for the price, but I was definitely aware that I paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be aware of what you're investing your money and your time into. Because ultimately, I want to say it again, you should invest in yourself. So.
Yep. And I mean, that program alone showed, we started with what? The very first cohort, I don't know, 1,200 people, 600, 800 people.
Yeah, there's
that.
a little over 1,000 maybe.
At the end, there was maybe 70 of us.
Right? Currently, we only have about 60 people on the Zoom calls.
Yeah. And so then we go and do the second cohort, right? Another 500 people join, and maybe 10 of them ended up at the end. There's only 60 of us. So ultimately what it comes down to, now don't get me wrong, there are probably some people that got what they needed and were able to just skyrocket without any more assistance. But I know for myself, like I don't remain in this community because I still um, need guidance. I remain in this community because I remember where I came from. Right. So I may have excelled at skyrocket pace, but there's people in the community who are still trying to get where we've gotten already. So I'm a part of this community because I still want to surround myself around people who I want them to continue to do better, who still need the guidance and the help, who are still trying to progress in their lives past where we are. Right. And because I acknowledge that this coach helped me get to where I'm at. And so I'm going to support him in my biggest transformation. You know, and that I think that's one of the biggest things. The reason we follow the people we follow, right, in personal development is because those people add value into our lives. If you're following celebrities and wanting to see how what they're doing or what drama they're going into or what cars they're driving or how much money they're making, how is that adding value into your life? But yet you'll invest the money to get the same dress they're wearing. You'll invest the money to get the new whatever is, you know, in their line of clothing or any of those kind of their makeup line, all the you will invest all the money to say, I'm wearing Khloe Kardashian or I'm wearing Beyonce's clothing line. You know what? I go to Walmart. Why? Because those things don't matter to me. I'm not going to judge people based off of what they're wearing. I'm going to judge people based on how they can add value into my life.
I'm with it on that. And it's also like I'm totally agree with you of like going to cheaper places. Also because it's like then I also have more money to invest my money into like another program or another thing. Like why? Like if clothes are not important to me, which don't get me wrong, clothes are very important to us. We do love our good hoodies. Shout out to Marcus Black. Together we can. You're like,
I didn't wear one today.
Like we do enjoy that stuff. Yet we don't want to pay, I don't know, $100 for a small little wallet purse or like, you know, whatever it may be, like those really expensive things, because that's not important to us. What's important to us is our personal development, is our growth and all of that. And that's why we're continuing on this journey. I mean, we've been having conversations right now of like, I'll be real and honest. Like financially, I'm in a financial struggle. And, you know, I've had to like recognize I need to be more self-disciplined. I have literally sat down with my bank statements to be like, I'm no longer doing this and I'm no longer doing that. Oh, I didn't even recognize I was being charged for that. So like I'm doing the work behind the scenes that freaking nobody's seeing because I'm not talking about it, because not everybody needs a full access pass into my life of what my finances are, what things are happening or going on. Yet I also know that like there's certain things that I also want to invest in, you know, within the program that we're in, because it's like you said, I'm continuing on because of who our leaders are, not just within Jay Pruna himself, but within this freaking community. The people that make this community are what make it unite and be incredibly, incredibly powerful. And I can only imagine in the future that we are going to be even bigger than what we are right now. Yet we are focusing in and diving in as a community right now. But anyways, I don't know where I was going with that. We are just continuously investing into ourselves because we know that we have planted ourselves in a soil, in an environment, and a area of growth that is going to continuously propel us forward, and that we are getting poured into continuously so that we can continue to pour from our overflow and receive our cup for our reserve for when we need it, when we're feeling tired, when we feel like we don't have what it takes or whatever, we're able to take from that reserve.
Yeah, absolutely. And how often, I mean, again, I think I just want to reiterate that, we all go through different seasons. I just got out of a season,
Yeah.
a season of rest is what I call it, because I did have to disconnect. I did have to reevaluate. I did have to figure out like my own self-doubt, my own um what I was, because a lot of times we pour so much out of our overflow that when we hit our reserve and then our reserve runs out, you know? And the greatest part about what I went through recently is that I did have somebody with me. I did have somebody helping me get through it. And that was my girl Becca, because I sh- I didn't even have to say anything. She knew. She knew. And that's why it's so important to surround yourself around people who understand you, who can hear in your voice when you're not okay.
And understand, I think the biggest thing for me was recognizing your patterns and your knowing your routine in your life. And I noticed you weren't doing those things.
Because I disconnected. I
Yeah,
disconnected from social media. I would post here and there, but not like I had been. I wasn't, my daily affirmations, just I fell off track. I fell off track. And, but I needed Becca more than she thought I did. I needed Becca. She put me back on track. God put me back on track, because those were my go-to. I went to God and I went to Becca. And it's okay. There's going to be times where you're going to fall off. You're never going to be at a steady pace going forward. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you're still ahead of the game.
exactly. And I think part of the when you were getting back on track is you had already laid down the track, so you knew what you needed to do. And it when you have that, it's easier to get back on track and get back into routine. And if you're just starting out, you need to lay down the tracks to continue moving forward. You
Mm.
need to put in the work. You had already put in so much work that when you told me certain things, I was like, Monica, you need to get back to your routine. you need to start like you need to start doing things that you were doing and just lost sight of. And it takes time. And I think that's one thing that I told you was like, it's going to take time. Like you can't beat yourself up about it because
Mm.
so often we do. Because I I wasn't necessarily fully off track. I was just trying to readjust coming back to Oregon. And I felt all over the place and I was hard on myself. And as I was telling you not to be hard on yourself, I was like, I have to listen to my own gang words right now. Like,
Yes.
I also am like beating myself up and all of that. So you have to take it easier on yourself. And I think that's so incredibly important. And we all need that freaking reminder.
Yeah. And when you say take it easy on yourself, you've got to give yourself grace.
Yeah.
You've got to give yourself grace. And that was one of the biggest things that I wanted to do in 2022 was give myself grace. Like it's okay for me to just stop, rest, readjust, and then go back in. And that's what I did.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, oh, that's why it's so important, man.
I could
It's
talk on this
important.
topic all day long.
And we really could.
Like it just like it fires me up. I think mainly because it's like we did the work. And that's what we want to get you guys to do is to do the work and to start seeing the change within yourselves. And we'll be here to fire you up. You already freaking know that by this point. Like that's why we do Win Wednesday with the David Sledge and all of that, because we love people, we love to see people win, like genuinely. And we want to also build that community where people can come together and support one another with their lived experience. Yet we cannot continue to show up unless we are also leading our life. So that's why we are also involved in other programs. So anything else you got to say, Monica? Because I know we could talk all day.
We could talk all day, just to kind of reiterate what we talked about was And just being able to, one, take accountability for your actions in any kind of relationship or friendship that you are into, and then being able to avoid staying stagnant in those toxic relationships, and learning how to set boundaries and saying no, and being able to detach and walk away by forgiving, because that sets you free. um and then, of course, surrounding yourself around just like-minded individuals who are going to not only inspire you, but you build relationships with people who are supporting you, who believe in you and encourage you, because they've already gotten past where you're currently at. And that's what we want to do for our community. We want to make sure that you understand that we know exactly what you're going through, exactly what you're feeling, because we've been there. We've been there. And yes, I thought about not being in this world anymore. And I thought about, my life was average, that I wasn't serving anyone. And the reality is that I was, and I never saw that in myself. And I didn't believe in myself like someone else believed in me. We all have the potential to just show our greatness, and everyone's greatness is so different. But how you respond to any adversity is how your greatness is going to be reflected. So those are my finishing thoughts.
Absolutely. One thing that has come to my mind is, one thing I've recognized not only within myself but in other people, is that people with anxiety and depression often cling on to other people because it escapes them from their pain. And that's why we get so like addicted in a way to other people's lifestyles or whatever, because it frees us of the emotional pain that we're bottling up. And what I had to recognize is that I needed to turn off the notifications for others and turn on the notification to my life. And that's exactly what I want you to do, is turn off the notification for others, and create alarms, create rituals and habits and routines within your life that are going to work for you. And you have that incredible, incredible recipe with inside of you that will shine brighter than you even know. So I hope that you're able to take some mic drops from us. I hope you're able to, you know, feel where we are coming from. Yet I also hope that you take that action within your life today, and you put yourself in an environment of growth, and that you go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. But it all starts with you ultimately. So with all that being said, continue to be the resilient warrior that you are in this game of life. Put that work into yourself, invest into yourself. But no matter what, stay strong, stay you, because you got this.
Peace.